Dallas, Jonathan,
Agree.
great to see the both of you. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me. I'm going to ask straight off before we get into what we're going to talk about, which has to do with hockey and music. How are you guys holding up, man, with the pandemic? I mean, COVID-19, everybody's been dealing with this for the last, what, 13, 14, 15 months, and it's just changed everybody's lives. I'm going to start with the president of 604 Records. Sir, how have you been holding up?
Oh man, this could take up the entire interview. Okay, I'll try and keep it short. It's been surreal, and it's been difficult, obviously, as it has been for everybody. For me, I guess in some weird ways, my life isn't that different than it was before the pandemic, in the sense that before the pandemic, I was kind of an antisocial guy. I'm either at work or I'm at home with my family, and that's kind of the same now. The difference is when I'm at work, nobody's there. And, we've been working remotely for 13, 14 months. And, I'm running a company of 36 people who are all working remotely. And it takes a toll on you. I find mentally is where I'm really struggling the most. It's hard to wake up in the morning and feel excited about going into an empty office again. And I guess I was more social than I realized. It's just that my social life was so tied into my work that with that gone, I've been a little lost. And it's funny because the company's doing great. We had one of the best years we ever had, and I'm having trouble reconciling that with the fact that I feel kind of empty every day with this thing. So I'm doing fine. My family's doing fine, but I'm not going to lie. It's as time has gone on, it's been harder and harder mentally.
Completely understand that. And yeah, 604 Records doing amazing. I've had a chance to interview many of the artists from the label, so it's kept me in business. So thank you so much for that. And great to hear. Dallas, how you holding up, man? Because with music and of course your own label and helping out so many artists and giving them a platform, it has to be amazing for you too. But how are you holding up throughout the COVID-19 pandemic?
Uh, Lots of layers to this one. There is, just like everybody, right? Like the family stuff it's been really great. My little girl Veda turned 7 over this, the last little while here, and our little girl's 6 months old coming up. So it's been great to have this chapter of my life, like being a touring musician for 20 years. I've missed a lot, I've missed a lot, and so that's been the gift throughout this. But also the home life stuff. It's like going further with what John's saying is I've realized that, yeah. So going to the airport with the guys, and the breakfast or the lunch you have before the flight, and just the joking and the text threads and just experiencing that day. It's not work. It's social life as we travel to a show. Like it's I miss a lot of that. I miss that connection with my friends, right? But like the home life stuff, it's all that stuff as a person that whether you drown yourself in work or it's you're traveling a lot. When you're at home, you can't hide. You can't hide. You have to really face to face with a lot of things that you might have been trying to avoid or didn't want to deal with. So it's been a personal journey. It's been the longest I've been home for a while. So the relationships are strong and the kids are great. But yeah, it's such a crazy experience. I mean, everybody I'm sure has been through different waves of this mentally. Like you said, it's 15 months or whatever it's been. So
Yeah.
we've all experienced everything.
Definitely. I mean, for me, it's just I don't have to travel so much running around the city to do interviews with my camera bag and everything else, which sometimes would be such a pain getting on
Yep.
this, the TTC. Now I just hit a couple of buttons, do my interview, and then after I'm done, I just kind of walk off and I can watch TV or whatever else. That's
Yeah. Yeah. It's
been
strange.
the best thing. But also, what's a cool thing is, man, a lot of people doing podcasts. YouTube superstars are definitely doing something that the nation loves: hockey and music. John, how did this combination come together, and who came up with the idea between the two of you?
So the background is we started, 604 has now got a lot of layers to it over 20 years. And one of them is that we started a comedy division about 4 or 5 years ago called Comedy Here Often. And it's done great. And it's multimedia. So we make records. In fact, we have a Juno nominated comedy record this year with Shirley Nome. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And we've got, YouTube channel that does really well. And we started a podcast network about, I don't know, 7 or 8 months ago, because we just were starting to get people asking us about it. And we were putting them up on our YouTube channel. And one of my employees was like, we should really do a proper podcast network. And so we did. And I had lots of people saying, "Oh, Simkin, you should do one. Like you'd be good on a podcast. You should do one." And so I started brainstorming ideas, and I sort of came up with a rough idea, because really there was no specific. A lot of podcasts have really specific premises, and we really don't. Like it's like, hey, um, I, I think it would be interesting to kind of talk about the intersection between hockey and music. That was it. Like that was kind of the whole idea, and it just made sense to ask Dallas, because like we both have seasons tickets to the Canucks. We both, we'll go to a game and then we'll see each other at the intermissions. Like, and our seats are pretty close to each other, so it's like, hey, let's meet at the. And it's always nice because sometimes I've got one of my kids, or sometimes he's got one of his kids, or it's a different buddy that we both know, and that was really fun. And so it just seemed like a natural thing. Dallas has been part of my life on the music side, and we've kind of been part of each other's life as Canucks fans. So it just seemed like a natural thing to do.
So Dallas, how does this work? Because again, what John said is really true. Usually it's just one thing. The podcast is on hockey, or it's just on music. So how does it work bringing together hockey and music? Because to me, from when I was a kid, the only really connection to hockey and music was hearing da 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 da, and that was it. So how does it work with this podcast?
Well, I think we just don't have any borders on what we're able to talk about. I mean, we're just talking about stories of stuff that we've experienced, and that's just really the rules. Like we haven't even gotten to some of the games that I've gone in to see, like on the road, like with the Default guys when we were on tour. There was a lot of times where we would catch games on the off. We would actually like look to see. We would either golf on an off day, or we would route it to where we can watch an NHL game in a city we want to see. So this, I saw Trevor Linden's first game back in Minnesota as a Canuck, and it was like the Sedins really turned it on. It was a great game, but huge significance as a Canuck fan. But like those kinds of stories, like there's not many Canuck fans in that building in that night, but I was there on tour. Just stuff like that, right? So it does intersect naturally just with what we do.
John, who are you looking to interview? Because and I can't, and I feel bad because I feel like I haven't really done my research. But I recently did an interview with somebody, an artist who was a former hockey player. He didn't play in the NHL, but he played in Europe, and he's now become a recording artist. Are you looking for people like that, or are you looking for whatever stories that are involved with, say, again, music and hockey? Does it have to be both together?
One of the nice things about it is there's so many different kinds of people that it makes sense for us to sort of interview. Mm-hmm. The scenario you just described, I don't know who that person is, but that sounds like somebody that would be ideal. But like another good example, which is a little similar to that, is JoJo Mason, who used to play hockey in a pretty serious way. And we had him on, and that one's going to come out in the next few weeks. And perfect example of a guy who now is a musician, started as a hockey player, like boom, perfect. But then again, I'm happy to interview musicians who just happen to be hockey fans like we are. So I think it's nice that way. It's the requirements of what would be an interesting guest are pretty broad. We don't really need somebody who's an expert in hockey. And the truth is, if people are looking for one of those podcasts where people get into the real hardcore analysis, that's not what we do. Dallas and I would say, are more than just your average casual fan. We know more about the game than just an average person might, but we're not analysts. We don't sit there with the stats, and it's more a fan's perspective.
Yeah, we're not dealing with hardcore analytics on this end. No.
Yeah, no. But no. What for some of the folks that you've already interviewed, like you mentioned about JoJo, who's an amazing country artist, what's been your favorite story that you've heard so far in the interviews that you've done?
Oh boy.
Myself?
Yeah.
Oh, honestly, my favorite part is just reminiscing. Um, the stories that I had forgotten, or I had only known bits and pieces of it, and getting to hear the full thing. But
Well, we just did one with and it's going to come out
yeah,
in the next few weeks. We just did one
bad one.
with Chad Kruger
Yeah.
and a guy named Bradley Kind who works with Nickelback. But that one was interesting because the four of us, I mean, Dallas and Bradley go back to when they're kids. I go
6 years
back,
old, yeah.
yeah, and I've been with Nickelback for 25 years almost. So to have guys who are so familiar with each other just kind of sitting around and shooting the shit. For me, my favorite story was finding out that Dallas used to bully Bradley Kind when they were kids.
Okay, you know what's so funny? Why can I see that though? Even though he's a great guy, I can see that him doing that back in the day.
I mean, street hockey and roller hockey as a kid, serious business.
Oh
It's
my
not my
god.
fault he was smaller at that point.
You know, I think the thing I'm enjoying about this the most, though, too, is not just the fact we're talking about probably, the nation's favorite subjects, but also we're getting a different perspective on the nation's favorite subjects. How does it feel about representing that part where we're going to finally be hearing things that maybe we've never heard of or even thought about before in this aspect of hockey and music?
Yeah, it's we talk about this a fair bit, but or at least I do, but I'm still kind of amazed that people find it interesting, and I sometimes forget that my life is a little unusual and that my career, and I'm not saying that in disingenuously, like I when you do this for 25 years, it's just what you do. You don't really sit there going, "Oh, I just had a phone call with Chad Kruger." I mean, I talk to the guy every day, so it's not in my world. It's not
I'm
like,
the manager of Carly Rae Jepsen.
like, you know. But then when you look back on it, it's that's been something that's been interesting for me on this is sometimes I found myself a couple of times going, "Oh yeah, I guess that is kind of interesting." Like especially on those first couple where it was just Dallas and I, and we were talking about some stories of stuff that happened when Default, blew up and was, one of the biggest bands in the world. And, you kind of look back and go, geez, yeah, I guess this has been a kind of an interesting career. And, so, yeah, it's lent an interesting perspective for me to actually, because I rarely sit there and reflect on the past. I'm one of those people who likes to just keep moving forward, and especially career wise, So it's been nice, I think. It's because I rarely do that. I rarely sort of sit around and reflect on what I've done.
Now, this is going for both of you, but Dallas, I'm going to ask you to answer this question first, though. What's the extent of your hockey career growing up?
Oh God, nil. I can skate. I've skated in multiple Juno Cups. I've scored a couple goals
Oh,
in those
great.
cups. Not in the last couple though. But yeah, I mean, I can keep up. I can keep up, but I need to start skating more. It's all about the skating, man. If you can skate a little bit and you're just at least, like, you can at least just to hold the puck on your stick a little bit and get a shot off, you're skating. It's all about the skating.
I'm
So
just
you gotta
curious,
get back
though,
on the ice.
whose team were you usually on in the Juno Cup?
Geez, who have I mean, I don't really remember a lot of the musicians because it's kind of back and forth in the dressing rooms a little bit. So,
Isn't Jim Cuddy always a big
oh yeah, he's
Yeah,
always in it, of course. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
Jim's the man in
he
this.
runs it, man. Yep.
Yeah.
Jim's team. But I mean, I remember Doug Gilmore. I was doing some back check and he was behind me as a forward. And he gave me the stick in the back of the shorts to give me a little bit of a nudge because I was struggling. It's yeah, I've been lucky to play hockey with some musicians. I mean, speaking of Chad Kruger, I mean, we get into the ice rink that he has in his basement and the players that we've collectively played there.
Wait, back up. What did you just say?
Chad's got an ice rink in his home.
Locally here in the Lower Mainland. So back in the day, yeah, we mean, yeah,
Yeah,
That's
and it's
incredible.
that's my experience. There's a lot of drop in hockey, right?
Steven's on a Zamboni.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Brad Kine just with a bucket dragged behind him like a mule.
John, what about yourself, man? What's your extension for the game?
I played. I played as a kid, and typical dad waking me up at 5 a.m.,
Wow.
putting on my gear while I'm half asleep. I was a I was a middling player. In other words, I wasn't horrible. I wasn't amazing. I was pretty good. But when I was in about grade 9, I got a pretty bad concussion.
Ooh.
And my parents said, "You're done. That is it." And I wasn't going to ever have a career, no way. So that was fine. But since then, I've been in the same ball hockey league for 20 years at this point, and my back's really screwed up now, so that part of my career might be over too. But I love it. Every Sunday night, I play with the same group of guys for like 20 years, and it's interesting because as you get older and your body stops cooperating with you, I went from being a very offensive defenseman to being
A pylon.
stay-at-home defenseman to finally being more like a stay-in-bed defenseman, which has a value. I'm never the last guy picked. Like, I think that when we pick teams, it's like everybody goes for the scoring guys first, but then they go for me because they want somebody who they know is going to, be defensively responsible. So I'm going to keep playing if I can, but it's been a huge part of my life. And the funny thing is, I'm not really a sports nut. Like, I like sports for sure, but not like hockey. Hockey's the only sport I am nuts about. And I think it's because I played. I mean, I think it's a direct line from playing as a kid to just falling in love with the game.
And I'll say this much: it's one thing watching it on television, it's a whole different experience when you're watching it live and up close, because you don't realize how big the players really are, how fast they are,
Yep.
how they hit that puck, and how they hit each other. It is a sport to be respected, which is
Yeah.
definite. And for the both of you, and again, Dallas, I'm going to ask you to start this off. What do you hope folks are going to get from this new podcast?
Honestly, I just a little insight into more of just personalities, myself and John, the conversations that we have. We're only going to have interviews with people that are down to earth. So we just want to see a bit of behind the scenes of all different aspects, different parts of different people's careers, whether it be a prospect like we talked to Cole Lind, or an experienced player. Just a different taste of music and what they've seen in their lives. I mean, I just want to just expose some of these stories and be entertaining with them some way.
John, same question.
It's sort of the same answer. I mean, I'm a very curious person naturally, and I'm really curious about what makes people tick. And I love that. Like when we had Cole Lind on, the Canucks prospect, I was really fascinated. And I mean, I remember I asked a few questions that are probably would have come across as maybe a little strange to him, but like, I was curious about, even like really banal sort of things like, he was telling us that he and some buddies were renting a rink to practice, like some other people that he knew, players from some other teams, just because they all live together. And I was like, does the Canucks pay for that? Do they chip in? Do they help you pay the costs of that rink? Which is kind of a stupid, but like, I'm always sort of wondering, like those kind of weird practical questions are sort of behind the scenes.
Is that recoupable? It better not be recoupable.
That's right. So I just love hearing people's stories. I love hearing what makes people tick. I love hearing the behind the scenes kind of stuff. And so that, like, it's funny, it looks like we're going to have a broadcaster on fairly soon. I don't want to say who in case it doesn't happen, but somebody who works with the Canucks. And I'm already I have so many questions. Like, when we have a season like the horrible season we had, what is that like? Like, do you wake up and sort of even want to not even go because it's like, ugh, another loss, another depressing game? Like, how does that, I'm curious about that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
As we wrap this up, I've got about 2 more questions. One, and this is just dealing with music. What's going on, John? 604 Records. Any releases that we can look forward to over the summer, and of course, leading into the fall?
Tons. And of course, here I am. I'm going to forget everything and not, and not mention anything. But we've got some big releases. One I can't talk about, which boy, I wish I could. But let's just say, one of our more famous bands, one of them is doing a solo record, and Alice Smith is even involved in that one. So we've got that. We've got JoJo Mason. We've got Andrew Hyatt. We've got, I mean, I'm sure Carly Rae's going to be putting out something sooner than later. We've got so many new artists.
Daniel Ryan just got added, a big ad at JR here in Vancouver. So
Yep, a new country artist. She'll have her EP coming out. We've got on the Zolas, like on our alternative label, the Zolas have, they just dropped a single today, and we have their album coming out. So yeah, we got a ton of stuff coming out. We've been very active, a ton of comedy stuff coming out as well. So yeah, we're firing on all pistons, and I'm just excited to get that ability to have people out on the road again. That's been so difficult, especially like if you're a Dallas Smith or a Marianas Trench or a, you know, it really impacts your bottom line financially. But if you're an artist starting out, it's not really impacting you financially because you weren't making a ton of money, but it hinders your ability to get out there and to make a name. And that's the part that's hurt the most. I feel worse. I mean, I feel bad for Dallas and people who it's impacted their ability to make a living, but I almost feel worse for these new artists who just
you're bang on.
It limits what they can do to promote themselves.
How frustrating. You work so hard to get to a point where you can at least have a platform and hopefully people will listen and judge for themselves, and you can't get there. And yeah, I can't even imagine how frustrating. I mean, we see that with some of the artists we're working with as well. And John, you see it, sure, right? It's I don't feel bad for myself at all. It's really hard to watch the other artists.
I've had a chance to talk to many artists.
Tough.
Yeah,
Tough, and it's really hard.
They've all been saying that. Dallas, any new releases, and are we going to be seeing you at the CCMAs or anything like that? CCMAs in November.
If I can go to the CCMAs and I'm invited and it happens, I'm there. Yeah, man, it's been a weird year. I've taken a bit of time off the last month or so since Hardy and I released the last single. And I was kind of hoping to do some summer stuff for shows and have that go on, but it doesn't look like a lot of things are going to be happening. So we'll be coming back with some new music fairly soon. Yeah, I mean, we got to get this machine running back again and do something.
That's right. That's
yeah,
it.
I mean,
I think we're so close. It's feeling like we're so on the verge of getting back to some kind of normalcy that I think now a lot of people are just going to sort of sit back and kind of go, okay. I mean, now it's not like, oh, when's this over? Now it's like, okay, this could be over in 4 to 6 months, and so let's just press a pause and wait for the world to come back.
Yeah, man. So I've honestly just been kind of just keep an eye on family and just keep an eye on my mental health and everybody around me as well, and just enjoying that time. But you know, it will lead with the song. So that song will come soon.
Looking forward to that. Last thing, of course, playoffs. Who's going to be doing well in the playoffs this year? Who do you think maybe taking Stanley Cup?
Colorado Avalanche, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 3 teams that I think have the best sort of, well, maybe 4 right now. Colorado just won the President's Trophy. They're just, there's no weakness on that team. So that's one. Vegas, which boy still pisses me off because I don't like how they got such a leg up when they came into the league. But having said that, they are a very, very impressive team. And when you have 2 goalies who are playing like they're 2 goalies, my God, I don't know. I wouldn't want to have to face that tandem in the playoffs, that's for sure. Carolina, which I still don't quite get how, is Rod Brindamore that great a coach to bring so much out of those players? But they're a force right now. Like I'd be a little worried about playing them. And then Tampa, mostly because what's his name? Kucherov's going to be back. Like he's been out, and now he's back to the playoffs. That adds an interesting element to that team now, which is like, can they repeat? I think it's possible.
Dallas feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, Colorado, it'd be really interesting to see Toronto.
You know, I was going to ask you about both of you. What do you think your chances of Toronto? But I remember before we started this interview, that look.
do they have the talent to do it? Yes, they do. Do they have the experience on it? It's debatable. I mean, they have Thornton. They've got some great experienced players on that team that have won cups before. It'll come down to goaltending. It always does.
Say that. That's the question mark to me is defense and goaltending, because
They come down to goaltending.
I mean,
Yeah.
Anderson's been out for so long. Is he going to be able to go back to form? And Jack Campbell, I just don't feel.
But man, if they get on a run, that'll be a lot of confidence, and they could roll over a bunch of teams. But
Yeah.
yeah. It's not to say. I mean, I'd love. I always love the Western teams to win Western Conference. I think we're always the least. We get the least attention out of any out of the league. But I don't mind Tampa winning. I think Tampa's got it for sure. They have a chance.
Well,
do.
I'll say this much. Of course, I'd love to see Toronto win, but I'm just at a point where I just want to see a Canadian team win. I just
No.
want to see the cup up here.
No.
I
know.
know,
No. So
but I
you
just
would be,
gotta hope for it.
you would be happy that the Canucks won a Stanley Cup?
I would, yeah, I would actually.
Really? Wow, you're a better
Yeah.
person than I am. Fuck, I would absolutely barf in a bucket when the Leafs win the cup, if they win a cup.
I just want it to be up here in Canada. That's what I care about the most. Let the
Canadians would be
Canadians
okay.
beat each other up about it.
Montreal Canadiens, I'm okay with. Ottawa, I'm fine with that as well. Winnipeg is fine. I'm fine with Winnipeg. They never should have lost their team. Blah 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 blah. But Edmonton, Calgary, Toronto, no.
Well, let's put it. Let's say the truth. Nobody in Canada likes Toronto except Torontonians. That's the truth.
And nobody likes the Flames except for people in Calgary.
Exactly. So either way, man. Oh, sorry, you're going to say something.
I love Toronto. I'm one of those rare Vancouverites who actually, the city itself.
Great city. The
Dallas
hockey
is giving
team,
you a
though.
look.
The fan base. How do you feel about their fan base?
Oh no, I hate them. I mean, it's,
there you go.
and there's that old song by Sloan where they talk. They're talking about the band Consolidated. What's the song? Coax Me, where they say it's not the band I hate, it's their fans. And that's kind of my feeling about the league.
Yeah.
It's not the team I hate, it's the fans I hate.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for this interview.
Great.
Oh, where do we see the podcast? Where do we look for this?
All the platforms where you can get them: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, you name it. Like any place that you can listen to podcasts. And in fact, we're about to expand. We're about to be found in a few new places, but any podcast fans, wherever you listen to your podcast, we're there.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the interview. And thank you for giving us something more to listen to as we're dealing with this pandemic. This sounds like a great show. I'm looking forward to listening to this podcast.
Thanks, Rudy.
Thank you so much.